account. Just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, here we go. A special, unusual Friday presentation. Hello, Maestro. Thank you for moderating. Hello, Ain't No Holler Back Gal. Hello, Melanie. Nice to see you. Hello, Dark Side. Hello, Kath. Hello, Ain't No Holler Back Girl. Did I get everybody? I think I got everybody. I think it's just us chickens here today. Gigi. Did I forget anyone? I didn't mean to if I forgot anyone. Hello, hello, hello. She-Fly 9, hello. Larry, hello, everybody. So I wanted to talk about the Karen Reed jury foreman coming out and giving a rather longer interview. So this was done at Fisher College on Thursday in front of a bunch of law students. He sat down and gave his take as to why they acquitted Karen Reed of all the serious charges in the case. And I think it's really being misunderstood as to his motivations and what it's about. I've seen people say, on our side of the fence, or my side of the fence, which is, I feel Karen Reed is guilty of the murder of John O'Keefe, and I think the evidence proves it. I think I see people on my side saying that this man was stupid, that he didn't understand the evidence, or that it was some kind of personality defect on his part that led him to a sincere belief in Karen Reed's innocence. And I would say this is not what this is about. What you're looking at is innocence fraud, which is a bunch of, really, it's a criminal person, or... he took an oath to just look at the evidence, and he betrayed that oath purposely in order to gratify himself and to get money from this case. He's looking for a book deal. He immediately was looking for and got a PR representative. So it's a willful uprooting of our legal system in order to get a killer out to further their own ends. So that's really what innocence fraud is all about, whether to gain money, to gain power, to further an ideology is on the lowest end of it, but it is part of it sometimes. And this is fueled by a hatred towards the police that he has, and just a general anger in general towards our legal system, and an adoption of this kind of idea that our legal system is systematically unfair, and that there's big injustices that happen in it that aren't corrected, and often I think this is just the kind of American myth that goes around. So this is a flat out innocence fraudster who's, this guy's a fraud. That's what and I think what he says is very telling in this interview, which is that after the first witness, Timothy Nuttall, he was already planned to acquit Karen Reed. So he's saying, I'm betraying my oath. So when you're a juror, they tell you not to make up your mind till you get into the jury room. But he says he made up his mind after the first witness. So he came in there with an agenda to free Karen Reed. And they talk a little bit about how he got picked is very interesting. He sounded like he wanted to be picked. If you don't want to be picked for a jury, I think everybody knows that the thing you say is, I can't be objective. I can't. I think she's guilty. You come in and you say, I think she's guilty. If he didn't want to be picked, he said, I didn't want to be picked and I played it cool. If you don't want to be picked, everyone knows how to not be picked for a jury. Say, oh, they're all guilty. They probably did it. They'll throw you out so fast. So it's not a complicated situation we have going here. I just, I see things like on X about bias and stuff. This is not about bias. This is about a criminal act. So criminals helping other criminals. So he acted like a criminal, betraying his oath, going against the law to further himself, to get book money and whatever other money he could get from being a jury foreman or a juror on this case. And he's continuing to go through it, to pretend like he has something that's insightful to say about the evidence or the case, or maybe we have to really listen to him and they could have tried this case differently and it would have changed this guy's mind. Clearly, this guy came on with an agenda. And I have issues with the way that they tried this case. I think there would be better ways that would have been harder for these people to come out and give any reason why they acquitted Karen Reed. I think that the DV aspects were much more on the money. I think this is a DV case than trying it with the Karen Reed is so jealous, and this concentrating on the car data I thought was a mistake, because what we had in court was like two dueling experts. And we also had a judge who allowed things to be presented with zero to little evidentiary support. And she allowed it to be a zoo. So, so many things went in Karen Reed's favor. But this idea that, to concentrate on the phone data and the reversing and not Karen Reed's own behavior and own lies and contradictory statements, I think was and own actions was a mistake. So, and I think that if they go this way with the civil trial, Karen Reed will win again. I think Karen Reed is again at an advantage in the civil trial. And unless the witnesses become aware that they have been brainwashed too by Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign, and that many of them, in the language that they use, in the way that they describe things, in protecting things that are private about themselves, that they don't want to expose, that Karen Reed knows, that Karen Reed will exploit all those things. So meaning that they're testifying in ways where they don't want their dirty laundry out, and it protects Karen. Karen Reed already knows all about their dirty laundry and has used it against them. So, why didn't we hear about Christmas Eve, or Karen Reed spending Christmas alone, or the way that it was described, this Christmas Eve by Paul O'Keefe was like, oh, I just went up to the Reed family and thanked them. Really? Really? Like, things were at a breaking point by that Christmas. And we didn't hear that Karen Reed spent Christmas alone. And I'll be talking about that Christmas Karen Reed spent alone and the circumstances around it in a future episode. But Karen Reed as a psychopath has already really profiled all the witnesses in this case. So she knows their weaknesses, she knows their strengths, and has played them all. But they don't know the way that Karen Reed ticks. They haven't yet figured out how Karen Reed ticks. How she's a psychopath, how she's an actress. How she fooled them all. What a absolutely pathological liar she is, and how she coercively controlled, kept an eye and demanded to John to report to her where he was at all times with a picture, sending pictures to her, proving where he was. That's abuse. And the more honest that the witnesses can get, the better. Put it out there. Put it all out there, because Karen Reed already knows. And she's going to be propagandizing the public nonstop through the civil trial. So let's get into the reporting on Charles DeLoach, the Innocence fraudster, jury foreman. Let's look at some of the reporting on this. Okay. I really wanted to show you guys this one first. Hold on one second.
Ben, good evening to you. Yes, the former jury foreman says he is currently working on a book about his life and his experience on the Reed trial. He says he's currently in the process of shopping that book around.
Right. He's looking for money. So this was, under the guise of talking to law students. There's nothing that law students can gain from listening to Charles DeLoach except for knowing that there's innocence fraudsters out there who are happy to line their pockets with blood money, acquitting killers. They're hip to the fraud. He knows that he's not going to get a lot of money. Nobody wants to hear about that. The popular side of this story is the Karen Reed conspiracy angle. The Karen Reed innocence fraud is big bucks, and he wants a piece of the blood money. That's what they could learn. But they're not going to get inside the jurors' minds and learn how to try cases from this. Instead, the media is going with this like, oh, we can just have to sincerely listen to this criminal helping another criminal out. We can really learn a lot from him. And maybe that we could try cases better. No, that's a joke. It's a joke.
At this question and answer event at Fisher College, Charlie DeLoach says no one was more surprised than he was when he was chosen to sit on the Karen Reed jury.
You knew a little bit about the case going in, but you kind of played dumb because you didn't want to get picked. And did that, sir?
So he knew, so he was already propagandized by the innocence fraud, but he pretended he didn't know more about the case. So it sounds like he wanted to be picked. A way not to be picked also is to say, I know all about the case and I have a strong opinion that can't be changed. Everybody knows how to get off jury duty. If you don't want to do it. When I did jury duty, I wanted to have that. I was happy to do it. I knew what I wanted to say. I knew what I could say if I wanted to shirk my duties. I was open to doing it. And like I said, and I learned a lot from that experience. First vote was 11-1 guilty. So that'll tell you about the jury that I sat on. We had one holdout, and she flipped pretty quickly. So it wasn't something decided over days, or it was just a couple of hours of, it was about, 1.5 weeks trial I sat on.
You, or did that serve the prosecution and defense?
It backfired on me because I was the first one picked.
DeLoach described growing up in Boston public housing during the 80s and 90s and says he was often stopped and harassed by police.
In the height of like the Charles Stewart case, it was scary because they was targeting black men.
So this is the Charles Stewart case. This is a famous Boston case of it's really like the Susan Smith's case of Boston, a guy who killed his pregnant wife for the insurance money, and he ended it all before he could face criminal punishment. But for a couple, he said a black man did it, and they rounded up, they were looking for a black suspect on Charles Stewart's word. This is the 80s. This is decades ago. But this is why he doesn't like the police. One of the reasons he doesn't like the police is because it's not like someone was convicted for this case wrongfully. It didn't go that far. They had one suspect that they were honing in on, but never tried. I mean, this is why he thinks our justice system is flawed. First of all, the justice system, there's very little in life that is perfect. And I would not say our justice system is perfect. Mistakes happen, but not at the rate that the wrongful conviction movement is selling it. No, anywhere near that.
DeLoach told students he found the prosecution's case against Reed fishy as soon as the first witness took the stand, an EMT who couldn't remember if John O'Keefe was found with a coat on.
I didn't take one note. I didn't have to after the first witness. It was just like.
After the first witness, so he didn't take one note, but he didn't think of taking a note at the first witness. He knew what he was in there for. He knew the assignment. The assignment was to free Karen Reed and get rich, get the blood money. That's what this is about. It's not complicated. Does everybody understand this mindset? It's a middle finger to the O'Keefe family, a middle finger to the police, a middle finger to our justice system, and I'm going to get mine. What's to explain here? I mean, that's it. That's it. That's the fraud. I'm going to gain power. I'm going to gain money. Because I don't have a moral compass. I don't care about that. Morals? What are morals? I'm going to get rich from this. Team killer. That's what it's about. It's not complicated.
Oh, okay. I see where this is going.
DeLoach stands by his not guilty verdicts and remains convinced someone other than Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe, but he...
Right. This is where it gets very contradictory, and this is where he really exposes himself and his ideology, okay? So if you believe that Karen Reed, he stands behind the verdict and he thinks that it was a conspiracy and someone else killed John O'Keefe, okay, if he really believes that, then what he's going to say next makes zero sense whatsoever. And
also says the outcome of the trial might have been different if Reed had only been charged with manslaughter.
No, that doesn't make any sense. If you think someone else did it, you're saying that you want to falsely convict her of manslaughter? So he doesn't believe. He knows Karen Reed did it. He knows she's guilty. He just doesn't care. And had there been manslaughter, you wouldn't have convicted her anyway. The mission was to free Karen Reed, and it didn't matter what happened in that court. There may have been some things done that may have made it harder for him to, but just everything, was a perfect storm of the right types of people in the jury room. Terrible jury picking by Hank Brennan. The worst.
Would it have been more likely that she would have been found guilty?
Yes. Yeah. Because then she would have not felt like it was she could overcome that.
And some of the jurors.
She could overcome it? She can overcome a manslaughter charge? He's making no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. He's saying he wants to falsely convict Karen Reed for a manslaughter charge she didn't do. He wants to take part in in another kind of fraud. What this means is he knows she's guilty. And it's just another way to criticize the prosecution. It wasn't that way. And he wouldn't have convicted her on manslaughter either. Let's be honest here. What are we talking about?
Might have been more swayed
exactly
toward that.
Because it was a lesser of a charge than murder and stuff. So.
Now, Charlie.
With the personalities, but they got the stronger personalities to fold who thought she was guilty. Said maybe, basically saying that with the other personalities, maybe they could have come to a thing of manslaughter. Definitely not. It never would have happened. Never would have happened. Not with that crowd out there. Let's take a look at CBS Boston. This is their reporting on it.
After years of speculation, weeks of testimony, and 2 trials, he was the one who officially declared Karen Reed not guilty in the murder of John O'Keefe. The jury foreman is opening up now about reaching a verdict.
Right, he's the one who did it, and he's looking for some blood money payback.
And the critical piece of evidence that swayed the jury. Brandon Truitt reports.
Speaking to a room full of criminal justice students, Charlie DeLoach made the case that the justice system is flawed, sharing his up-close and personal experience with one of the biggest trials in the country.
What say is the defendant at the...
Right, so they're going to spread the innocence fraud talking point that the justice system is so flawed. The reason it's so flawed is because of innocence fraudsters like Charles DeLoach and lying lawyers, lying criminal lawyers like David Yannetti and Alan Jackson. In a movement that has perpetrated frauds on the court over and over again, freeing guilty killers and making them victims in the consciousness of the American public, and re-victimizing victims' family members. That's the real corruption in our criminal justice system. I mean, this is the biggest fraud in America, bar none, the wrongful conviction movement. And it has brainwashed generations of young people.
Are not guilty or guilty? Not guilty.
Millions watched as the verdicts were read that ultimately freed Karen Reed. But that unseen voice uttering the jury's decision belongs to Charlie DeLoach.
It was intense because before I got to the last not guilty, the crowd erupted. It was already...
Right. Judge Cannoni made a circus, and not unlike OJ Simpson. Very same kind of weak judges. Allowed their courtroom to be a kangaroo court, and that's what you get. You get fraudulent verdicts like this. It was a fraud upon the court that he took part in.
Like it was a basketball stadium outside.
Speaking to a room of criminal justice students at Fisher College on Thursday, DeLoach says despite 31 days of testimony...
Wow, that's like almost not a packed room, is it?
...and hundreds of pieces of evidence, his mind...
So they're listening to this, hearing that the criminal justice system is so racist, it's so unfair. We're overcharging people. Like, fair verdicts could happen if we didn't overcharge. I think, if anything, Karen Reed was undercharged. The more I look at it, the more I think it's premeditated.
Was made up early.
I didn't take one note. I didn't have to after the first witness. It was just like, oh, okay. I see where this is going.
DeLoach believes there was some kind of cover-up. He takes issue with investigators never entering the Canton home and thinks overall the testimony was weak, except that of John O'Keefe's mother.
She was broken up already, trying to even talk about her daughter who passed.
Right, and then I'm going to re-victimize her, and I enjoy re-victimizing her as long as it can line my pockets. I'm going to talk about John O'Keefe's mother because it's going to make me look good, look like I might be a feeling person. But I'm really not. I really give the middle finger to John O'Keefe's mother. And I love lining my pockets with all the blood money I get from this case.
And also her son-in-law who passed away, and then seeing her really break down when she's talking about John.
When the jury was finally free to deliberate, DeLoach says all of them wanted to look at one piece of evidence, the taillight, and claims many jurors came to the conclusion it had been tampered.
This is way different than the taillight we seen on the ARCA report.
And
on the ARCA report, the report that took only the stuff from the defense? You mean the ARCA witnesses that communicated via signal? You mean the ARCA witnesses who lied to the first jury and said that they weren't paid, that they had no communication, that they were neutral witnesses? Those fraud witnesses? That's what you were going by, the ARCA report? The ones who destroyed all their communications with the defense in order to sandbag the prosecution? Wow. Shocker. So, I mean, I think that the best analogy given was Innocence Fraud Watch. I think I reposted it. Wrote a post saying that this is like OJ Simpson juror Carrie Bass. It's like her. Let's take a listen to the OJ Simpson juror to just give you guys a sense of, please get this man on your show. Melanie, he wouldn't come on my show. They don't answer really tough questions. These people don't answer tough questions. Are you kidding? I'll try, but I don't think so. They talk to other fraudsters and other softies. That's been my experience in the 10 years that I've been covering this subject. I've tried to get so many people with opposite side opinions on the other side of innocence fraud, and I've had zero luck. Because it's, like I said, it's not like there's any logic behind it. It's just fraud. It's just organized crime. It's fraud. It's crime. There's no like great thinking behind it. But here, take a listen. This is from the fantastic documentary OJ Made in America. Take a listen to Carrie Bass and why she acquitted OJ Simpson. Take a listen. Spoiler alert, it didn't have to do with the evidence.
Jury that voted to acquit OJ because of Rodney King?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How many of you think felt that way?
Oh, probably 90% of us.
90%? Did you feel that way?
Yes.
90% of the OJ Simpson jury they weren't looking at the evidence. So all you want a juror to do is look at the evidence and make a decision from the evidence, including all the testimony, et cetera, on both sides. But this is something else. This is saying, I'm mad about Rodney King. I hate the police. I'm going to give a middle finger to the justice system and acquit this killer. Also, strangely, also a high-profile trial that might be good for me to acquit. And I might be able to line my pockets. Because I have anger towards the police. I have anger towards the justice system, and it's not about the evidence. It's about getting away with fraud, committing a fraud.
That was payback.
Uh-huh.
You think
That was payback. If Charles DeLoach, I think we're honest, you say it's payback, and I want to be paid back too. The added element, they were mad about what they thought of the Rodney King situation. They were going to pay back the LAPD by acquitting, just like Karen Reed, another rich, privileged person. Because also these lawyers make it so easy, right? These lying criminal lawyers.
that's right?
The majority of the world, or the majority of Americans, think that we're a group of idiots who didn't get it right. I think that the jury was made to be the scapegoat for their faults. It was a mistake to present Foreman the way they did. It was a mistake to let Darden get up there and be a part of that case.
Okay, because she didn't like Foreman. She says all the evidence goes out the window because of Foreman's racial bias. She's going to throw out all the evidence. Okay. I don't think that's looking at all the evidence, but okay. And she didn't like Darden. She didn't like the prosecutor. Those are her reasons. But I guess she's the 10% of the jury that's not going for a payback for Rodney King.
Had they come correct, had they had the right attorneys up there putting on the case that they need to put on, they would have won. It was
right attorneys. What are the right attorneys? First you said it's Foreman. Do you mean the right police officers or the right attorneys? Then you said it's Darden. You didn't like Darden? What about Marcia Clark? So if Marcia Clark and Darden and they didn't use Mark Foreman, somehow, what, you're going to erase him from the... It didn't make any difference taking Proctor, who I find a lot less offensive than Mark Foreman, but okay, out of the case, and Karen Reed.
Payback. They messed up.
They messed up. Right. So they're never going to take any responsibility. It's just a mindset. It's a criminal mindset. It's a middle finger to the criminal justice system, a middle finger to the police. And I don't think that did any of those OJ Simpson jurors write a book? I don't remember them writing a book. I don't know how much they profited, but this profit is really key in the Karen Reed Innocence, fraud, grift. There's just a lot of money taking the pro-Karen side and not a lot of money on this side. I can attest to that. So it's just a quickie for today. That's what I have for today. I mean, I see things like, just before I go, I see things being expressed on X. This is like a good example. This tweet. This is, I think, a misunderstanding of what's going on here. Charles DeLoach, Karen Reed jury foreman from the second trial, spoke at a recent event at Fisher College alongside Casey Sherman, a PR rep and true crime author. So Casey Sherman's getting in on the grift. Charlie commented, "I didn't take one note," DeLoach said. "I didn't have to after the first witness, an EMT." He also went on to discuss a period in Boston history where black men were targeted. Well, they weren't targeted by the police. They were targeted by a killer who wanted to get away with it. You said it was a black guy, so they looked for a black guy. Okay. And his own experiences growing up, he expressed that he went into the trial already thinking things were fishy. It is an important reminder that we all have biases. No, this is not about biases. This is about crime, innocence fraud, crime, a criminal act, a middle finger to our justice system, a middle finger to our collective morality, a middle finger to the victims' families and to all victims' families everywhere. Biases can cause us to think more emotionally. He wasn't thinking emotionally. He was not thinking emotionally. He was thinking very rationally. And he decided that he'd make more money and get more out of acquitting Karen Read. Personally, get the satisfaction of giving the middle finger to everyone, justice system, police, victim's family, and he'd get more money from it. End of story. End of story. When perhaps the situation was required to be thoughtful and analytical, justice for John, the victim, depended on people looking at the hard facts in the case. I can't disagree with that. Numbers, science, timelines. And Karen Read's own behavior is left out of this. The relationship between the perpetrator and the victim is key, left out here. The family, friends of John O'Keefe, witnesses, and entire community depended on it. And so they go through these biases, decisions that harm, anchoring bias, authority bias. None of these things came into play. It wasn't his biases. Not at all. He wasn't blinded by biases. He was blinded by a need to give the middle finger and to the police and to the justice system and to gain money. And that's what innocence fraud is about. It's not like they don't know these people are guilty. He knows Karen's guilty. He just doesn't care. He'll gain more by acquitting her. And the innocence fraud campaign gives him an excuse. So that is what I have for tonight. Have a great night and a great beginning of the weekend, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow at 6, back here at 6. Please hit the thumbs up on your way out. Support the channel. Venmo, buy me a coffee, Patreon, all very needed ways to support this channel in excellent ways. Links are always in the description of each and every episode. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 6.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry, gin, gin. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence, fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim.